Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2021. Today we're back across the pond talking about Lotus. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Guess what? Today I'm across the pond in Cromer in the UK with a very special guest by the name of Johnny Tipler. Johnny, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yeah, I certainly do, Mark. Yeah, we're ready to go.
We're going to have some fun. Well, Johnny and I had a couple issues this morning getting this whole thing going, but we're back on track today. But you know, when it comes to old cars and maybe old Lotuses, that might be the norm. I don't know. We'll see. But we're back connected again today, and I appreciate your patience. So before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into your latest book, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, Johnny?
Well, for the last, let's think now, for the last 30 years or so, I've been a car journalist and writing car books. Prior to that, I did an art history degree. So I studied medieval European art. Wow. And then on the back of that, I got into restoring wall paintings, medieval wall paintings in churches.
Whoa.
And fairly specialized.
Fairly.
You're chipping whitewash off medieval paintings that they in the Reformation they just painted over all the old biblical stories.
Oh my gosh!
That were painted on the walls, and there's a bunch of people, not very many people, who were involved in the restoration and conservation of these medieval pictures. But it was a world occupied or populated mostly by ladies of means, and so they didn't really need that much money, whereas I did, yes. And there wasn't any money in it.
Yeah,
so
well,
it lasted sort of 3 or 4 years, I think. And
yeah, well, it sounds fascinating and very interesting, and wow, that is a niche for sure.
It's different to cars, isn't it?
Yeah, very different from cars. Well, let me give you a proper introduction, and we're going to talk about a new book that you've written. Johnny Tipler is a lifelong petrolhead. Maybe he had a little diversion into the medieval art world, and highly respected motoring journalist and author. He's authored 43 automotive books since 1989, published by market leaders including Cotier Press, Veloce Publishing, our friends there, Haynes, of course, and the Crowwood Press, who published this latest book. Today, we'll be focusing on this book, which is titled Lotus, The Complete Story, with the foreword by Mike Kimberly, who was previously CEO and managing director of Group Lotus. Johnny was an integral part of the team on Lotus Cars in-house magazine, writing stories, attending meetings, and working closely with Lotus Cars press and marketing staff. He's contributed to numerous other automotive magazines. It would take an hour for me to list them all here, I think, and covered many events from rallies to races. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our valued sponsor, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Covercraft has the most complete line of custom seat covers available. Choose between the Polycotton Seat Savers, Endura Precision Fit custom seat covers, Leatherette Precision Fit custom seat covers, and their durable Carhartt seat covers. They're all easy to install and remove, and guess what? They're machine washable too. Easy cleanup to make them look brand new. No more worries about the kids spilling on your seats or your pets damaging your expensive upholstery or leather. Covercraft's quality seat covers protect from damaging pet claws, pet fur, hair, mud, moisture, food, drink spills, drool from permanently damaging your vehicle's fine surfaces. Headrest and armrest covers and color options are also available on many of the styles. And I've got a great offer for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, they'll give you 10% off plus free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping with the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. Visit covercraft.com today. Last year, I changed my collector car coverage to American Collectors Insurance. That's who now protects my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush. But did you know they also insure your valuable collections of automobilia and other collectibles, If you're like me, you've invested in a lot of cool collectibles over the years. Those items are valuable. And if you were to lose them in a theft or a fire, well, try to get your normal homeowner's insurance to pay you what they're worth. Good luck with that. American Collectors Insurance provides you with assurance and confidence that your collectibles are fully covered. They insure a lot of items, including automobilia, wine, baseball cards, books, figurines, die-cast models, model trains, glassware, sports memorabilia, toys, and a whole lot more. American Collectors Insurance, they've been protecting us enthusiasts since 1976. They provide you with an agreed value insurance policy backed by a long history of taking care of their clients. Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Raines here at Cars Yeah, American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. So, Johnny, we are back. So I want to dive a little deeper into the proverbial corner here since we're talking about Lotus. Of course, they have a spectacular racing history that we'll touch with. But let's start with talking about this book. Now, you've written several books about Lotus cars, correct?
Probably without going to my bookshelf and counting them, I think possibly 7.
7? Wow.
Well, on specific models, last year a book on the Elise and Exige came out. That was by Crowwood Press. Previously, I've done books on the Lotus and Caterham 7. The cars that you associate with Jimmy Clark, the world champion in 63 and 65. So that would be the Lotus Types 25 and 33.
Wow.
Then the ones that you associate with Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson, the Types 78 and 79.
The black and gold cars.
Exactly. And then, well, the sort of pièce de résistance is a book called Black and Gold, which documents the whole of that era when players sort of came on the scene sponsoring Team Lotus in 68 with the Gold Leaf brand. That switches to the John Player Special cigarette brand in 72 when Emerson Fittipaldi is the champion. And that black and gold period then goes right up to 86 when you've got Ayrton Senna. I mean, there is a slight hiatus in what do we think, 1980, when it goes to Martini and then Essex Petroleum.
Right.
But that's just a very brief window.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, your relationship with Lotus and working with them over the years has tied you into all this. Let's talk about this new book, because this new book really covers the entire spectrum. It's very in-depth, and you go from the beginning up to current. What did you learn in putting this together after having written so many other Lotus books? I would imagine your challenge was, what else can I bring to the story?
Yes, I think you're always with a book that calls itself the complete story. I mean, it's a mark history, and with any book, the moment you hand in the material to the publisher, it's sort of game over. And even though the story is still evolving, I mean, Lotus is now going in for electric cars. They've stopped the Elise, the Exige, and the Evora. We're now with the Evija, and the Emira is still a petrol engine car, but what they're working on now is electric. And, well, we wait and see how that goes.
Well, that's something interesting to me, because the electric age is coming, obviously, and many, many companies have said that we're going to be going all electric. You kind of scratch your head and go, okay, well, is it too much too soon, or how are they going to proceed with this, and how is it going to affect it? With Lotus being a relatively small manufacturer of cars, and they always have been, maybe that's the right move for them. I don't really know. I don't manufacture cars, obviously, but I kind of wonder if this is going to work, and I guess we'll have to wait and see, but that seems to be the direction they've chosen, right?
It is, and they presumably have done their research, and they think that yes, it will work. But as we know, the infrastructure to support electric vehicles is not there yet.
Far from there, yeah.
And you imagine somebody living in a high-rise block. where are they going to plug? Well, there are maybe a few charging points in the street, but the reality is that, well, where are they all going to go to charge up? You imagine tourists all leaving a holiday resort on a after a bank holiday, and they're rushing up the motorway to get back home, and where are they going to charge their electric cars up?
Yeah.
The whole thing for me, it doesn't really add up. I've driven electric cars. I know that they go like the clappers, if I can put it that way. But yeah, so the technology within the car is absolutely fine, but it's going back to battery production, the way you're going to get the minerals, the chemicals to actually make where is that sustainable?
Yeah, maybe moving a little fast. It seems to be, and I've had an enormous number of people in the EV manufacturing market on the show in the last 6 months, people in the battery industry, and we've all had this same conversation, especially over here in the United States, probably the same in the UK and a lot of countries. We just don't have the infrastructure yet to supply all the power that's going to be needed, much less the charging stations. I just had a guest on the show not too long ago. They're making a portable power pack that basically you can plug into your house outlet and then bring out to your car, and it charges your car in about 15 minutes or something like that. But again, then you got to go buy those. There's all this complexity. But let's get back to Lotus, because I'm curious, after all the books you've written, this inclusive book of everything Lotus, were there some things that you learned in putting this book together?
There were, because I was fortunate in having Mike Kimberly, the CEO who you mentioned earlier on. He did some very long stints at Lotus, and so I would say he knows where the bodies are buried, but he certainly has a lot to say about how it was and what Clive Chapman was really like. Which there's a sort of a myth that Chapman was sort of like the hard man who kind of rode roughshod over everybody. But Mike Kimberly won't have that. He says no, he was a really decent guy, and there are aspects like that one finds out with this book. Also, somebody called Fred Bushel, who was Chapman's sort of money man, really, from 1953. Up till, after Chapman died, Bushel was still the financial brains behind Lotus. And he facilitated, by doing the sums and moving the money around, he facilitated a lot of stuff that Chapman wanted to do and probably couldn't have done without Fred Bushel. And so Bushel is dead, but one of his daughters was introduced to me in the course of doing the book. And Lotus is relatively close to where I live. I mean, it's like 40-minute drive away.
Oh, nice.
So she lives just near the factory still. And she has all her father's archives there, including some photographs which went into the book, plus a diary that he kept. More than a diary, really. I mean, it's doable as a biography, but it goes back to when he first saw the Lotus kind of premises, which was in converted stables behind his father's pub in North London. Wow. And Bushel saw this from a bus and happened to get off the bus to go into the pub, and he met Chapman, and Chapman took him on as the
rest is history.
As the money man. Yeah, so stuff like that, which came out of the Fred Bushel sort of archives.
Now, I'd like to ask my guests about mentors or inspirational people in their lives. When you think about Lotus and his closer relationship you've learned and had with the company over the years, is Chapman that driving inspiration for you? Or is it this other gentleman? Or is there somebody related to Lotus Cars that you think has been a great influence in your life?
Well, I hardly came across Chapman. I had a spell when I was promoting the John Player specials. I ran a little press office, part of an agency that the agency promoted. It was hired by players to promote their sponsorship of Team Lotus. So we would go to the Grand Prix, and the agency would produce everything from the stickers that went on the cars to the T-shirts and the rally jackets that people could buy trackside. And somewhere in there, there was the players' special events people, which included for every Grand Prix, they'd probably hire, shall I say, possibly as many as 200 model girls to walk around handing out cigarettes. So, I mean, I wasn't involved with that. So I ran this little press office, and at the racetracks, you would encounter Chapman and the drivers, and you'd have to sort of get a little interview to put out there. In terms of people who were influential, well, Chapman's son, Clive Chapman, runs classic Team Lotus, and what Clive inherited after his dad died and after Team Lotus finished in '94 was a lot of Formula One cars, Grand Prix cars, which were just literally in a building which they refer to as the piggery. So he began taking these Formula One cars, quite famous cars in their own right, cars that would have been raced by Jim Clark and Graham Hill and Ronnie Peterson, Jochen Rindt, Mario, indeed. And he got a bunch of guys, some of whom were mechanics back in the day, the most famous of whom is called Bob Dance, who started at Lotus in 1960. They'd restore these Grand Prix cars, and either they rent them out or they run them themselves, or they sell them. Wow. And so you still see these authentic or original Lotus F1 cars in historic racing today.
Tremendous.
So Clive he hasn't influenced me as such, but I really admire what he's done.
To preserve that legacy and the history is really spectacular. When I was racing vintage cars, my first vintage race was I had a Lotus 18 Formula Junior. And so I always kind of thought about Chapman when I crawled into that car. Of course, that was the first open wheel car that Jimmy Clark raced, which made me feel not like him because nobody could be like him, but kind of made me feel special. But it was a great fun car. It was originally an Ian Raby car. It was a car that was used it had a little plaque on it, which was cool. And it was brought over here years ago, then restored. Funny, I ended up selling it to a Dr. Mark Green with a neon of green, and it went back to England when I stopped racing it and stepped into a Lola T290. So, and I'm not sure if he still has it. I know he was in a very bad accident in his Lotus B, flipped over, and I believe he got burned very badly and had to stop racing. But I always loved that car. It was that beautiful green with the yellow nose and the yellow wobbly wheels, and was fun. Fun little car to drive. I never felt very safe in that car, though. It was a very tiny tube frame.
Yeah, this is the amazing thing about historics today. Well, back in the day, somebody would lose their life probably once a week. Yes. But today, they race them just as hard, and yet you don't hear about the fatalities.
Well, you guys over there in the UK race that hard. Over here, the vintage racing, I think, is a little bit more gentlemanly, I shall say. Not that the Brits are not gentlemanly. You certainly are. But the racing doesn't seem to be as serious. When I watch some of the stuff going on at Goodwood, I am shocked at bumping and the stuff that they're doing with these very beautiful, dangerous old cars, but over here, if you typically, at least when I was racing, if you even bumped into somebody, they give you what they call the 13-13 rule. You're taking 13 months off. You get to come and work at the track and see if we will allow you back, because again, they are very dangerous vehicles and you're still traveling at maybe not close to the speeds that the real drivers were doing back in the day. But as I said, that car, I never felt that safe in that car. I never wanted to get in an accident, that's for sure. But it was great fun. And I loved my time in that car. Let's take a short break and thank our sponsors. We come back, I want to talk about maybe some challenges you faced with this book. So keep that thought in mind. Keep the seatbelt cinched tight, and we'll be right back. I've teamed up with AutoGeek because, well, they've been the leading source of auto detailing products, accessories for more than 20 years. Their Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax is specially formulated from Brazilian carnauba wax. It's easy to apply on any paint surface and provides that warm glow that we love, especially me on my vehicles. You're going to love it too. A favorite of car shows countrywide, Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax from AutoGeek wipes on easily, requires no drying time, is easy to remove, and provides up to 90 days of protection against against damaging environmental contaminants. This wax is designed to exceed the standards of the most discriminating enthusiasts and collectors. Go to autogeek.net to get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their very skilled technical support. autogeek.net. That's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. 20, 50, or 100 years from now, will there be a workforce to care for the collector vehicles we love? With auto shop programs disappearing across the country, it's a question we enthusiasts have to ask. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these vehicles aren't lost to time. One of the many ways RPM, which is short for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, is accomplishing this goal is through workforce development initiatives. The RPM Apprenticeship Program enables the next generation of artisans to earn a living while they learn the craft of restoring and preserving these vehicles directly from industry professionals. The Endangered Skills Program documents the process of masters training future craftspeople on a variety of critical skills in danger of being lost forever. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of the collector vehicle skills trade, visit RPM Foundation today. They're one of the charities of choice here on Cars Yeah! All right, so we're back, Johnny. So let's talk about this. When you're writing books, a lot of this is gathering information. No doubt there's some obstacles and challenges. When it comes to this book, was there one thing that really stood out for you or was a big challenge for you?
I think the main challenge is keeping the word count down. The publishers give you a word count, and this is based on the size of the book and the price that they can charge for that book in the bookshop. And the word count is generally, I push it as hard as I can.
I'll bet.
I think on this particular book, I probably submitted, like say 110, maybe even 130,000 words.
Wow.
Said, well, no, we can't do that. You've got to cut. And so one of the things that I like to include in my books is kind of driving impressions. So, which is not so relevant with a Lotus history book, but if you're talking about the Lotus Elise or the Exige, then or the Evora, you want to say, here's a road trip I did. This is how the car behaved driving through the Alps. Or,
okay.
There was one time we took an Elise. I drove it from Las Vegas down to Boulder and then along the Route 66 for a bit.
Oh yeah.
So there's a part of that road trip is in the Elise book, but all the time you're being constrained by the publisher to, no, we can't use that many words. And you present them with, 300 photographs. 300 is okay, but I think I probably submitted like 400 images.
Oh my gosh.
And they said, no, you've got. So that's the sort of the challenge. It's not so much the writing or compiling it. It's the constraint of you've got to really slot it into that many words.
I can only imagine. This new book, how many pages?
300. I can get a copy off the shelf, but 300 or so.
Yeah, a big, thick book. Yeah, so lots and lots of Lotus history in here. So for you listeners that love the Lotus brand, this is a book you got to have on your shelf. It's absolutely spectacular. Is there another book in your future now? You've written so many books. Are you working on a new one?
Yeah, there's an Evora book in design at the moment with Veloci Publishing. So that'll be out in August. And that's got some nice drive stories in it too.
Awesome.
Driving to Portugal or through the Alps in an Evora. But, or the Isle of Man. We went there last year, ran the TT course.
Yes.
The irony is that those guys on their motorcycles are doing literally 200 miles an hour on country lanes and through little villages. 200. And
my hat's off to those guys. I watch videos of that, and my heart starts racing. I used to ride motorcycles, and I can't even imagine what those guys are. I don't know how their brains can work that fast. And the dangers that they're facing. It's dangerous enough on a MotoGP track. Those roads, my gosh. Yeah, mind-boggling.
You're right. They're absolutely the country lanes. And although out of the towns on the Isle of Man, there is no speed limit.
That's what I hear. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Here we are in our Evora press car. And well, what could I do? I mean,
Put the pedal down.
60 miles an hour was about it.
Well, yeah. Country roads. Yeah, it's
and other traffic.
Yeah, I saw a video with Jeremy Clarkson with the BMW E46 CSL when they first came out, and he was on the Isle of Man driving that car around the Isle of Man and talking about it. And until then, I didn't know that there was no speed limits once you get outside the town there. So that was kind of cool. That was something that I learned. Hey, let's talk about your passion for cars a little bit, because I'm kind of guessing you're a car guy. Maybe just a little, right?
It's a lifelong thing. My dad was a sales rep, so he was always on the road. And during like school holidays, I would probably, if I didn't have anything better to do, I'd go out on the road with him. So from childhood, yeah, it was.
Well, is there one vehicle in your past that's really special for you? And if so, tell me about that ride.
Well, I'm going to start crying any minute.
Oh, no.
Now.
Well, I know I've done a good job as an interviewer if I make my guests cry.
Well, the car in question, it's a Porsche, a 911 or a 964 to give it its sort of model designation.
Nice.
It was mint green.
I love that color.
And so I call it the peppermint pig because Porsches are porkers.
Yes.
So the peppermint pig, I bought it I'd gone to Germany to interview somebody called Michael Rook, who had his own race team, Rook Racing. It was quite a famous team, having won GT classes at Le Mans. And in Michael Rook's showroom was this center stage, this mint green car. And I thought, I haven't seen you. I didn't see you. And, when the interview had finished and my photographer was still sort of busy snapping, I went over and had a look at it. And I thought, this is not an RS, because it was got up like an RS. It lowered with, black wheels and so on. And I said, this has got a sunroof and a back seat. It's not an RS. And I'd gone over in another 911 I had at the time, which was also a left-hand drive car. And we more or less did the deal on the spot. He took my car and I drove away in the peppermint pig.
Oh my God. I'll tell you something about mint green. In the 80s, I really wanted to buy a new Porsche. I had a couple used Porsches. There was a turbo in mint green at a Hohen Porsche dealership in Carlsbad, California. And I would go in there and kick the tires. I'm sure the salesmen were sick of seeing me because they knew I had a new family, little baby, a new home. I couldn't afford a new turbo. But there was one on the showroom floor, and I just fell in love with it. I'm still talking about it today. This was a long time ago. And somebody had ordered it, and when it showed up, he said, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake. I hate this color. And so that car sat there for over a year. They could not sell it. It's a pretty bold color. And I used to try to figure out how on earth could I buy this car. I still think about it today. Of course, today it's one of those holy grail collectibles, in that color. But they ended up sending that car out and having it repainted black so they could
No way.
Yeah, so they could get rid of it. They couldn't get rid of it. Nobody wanted it. And so I've always thought I want a mint green car. I had a 964, a Carrera 2. That was my daily driver for years. Loved that car to death. It was set up like an RS America. Had the cup wheels, had the RS America front bumper, had the really beautiful mirrors that were kind of rounded like probably your car. So I have to ask, because you mentioned tears. I'm guessing it's not still in your... Uh-oh, he puts a hand on his forehead. Here comes the tears. What happened to that car?
Oh, well, I mean, I just ran out of money. The train hit the buffers and I had to sell it.
Yeah,
we've
all been there.
And a chappie a mechanic in Belgium who had rebuilt the engine for me probably a couple of years earlier. He said, look, if you want to sell it, I'll give you a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
And so I think probably 2017, it moved over to Belgium.
That color is so cool. And now with the onset of so many people loving paint to sample cars, I've always thought, in the future, in fact, I saw a Cayman painted that color last year at a local car show, and I just fell in love with it again. It's just, green is kind of a color that's coming back. There's a lot of very cool green colors in the Porsche world. That stone gray, which is a beautiful kind of gray-green color. There's Viper green. I mean, it's all these great green colors that are kind of coming back. My first new car was a green Scirocco, first gen Scirocco. So there you go. So I'm going to be your car psychologist since I've got your emotional state a little hyper here. I'm going to crawl into your head. If you were manifest as a vehicle, Johnny, this isn't what you want to be. This is how you perceive yourself as the man in the mirror. What would you be and why?
Well, I would be a 911.
Okay.
But yeah, I suppose I used to go to see races at English tracks, Brands Hatch and so on. And back in the day, you'd see kind of 911s were relatively exotic then. And you'd also see 917s and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so the 911, it has that timeless quality. It's sort of ageless, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really an air-cooled car. It's noisy. It's boisterous. It's rough around the edges, and yet you can get it to handle nicely and with a decent performance as well.
There you go. I like it. I was interviewed by Tommy Kendall, the racer, on show number 1000 here on Cars. Yeah. And when he asked me all the questions I asked my guests, and that was pretty much how I answered that question. I'm a Porsche 911 too. So
are you really? Hey.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Nice one.
That's me for sure. I always ask my guests about a book, but in your case, we're going to again pitch this book, Lotus, The Complete Story, published by our friends at Crowwood Press. So I'm going to make sure I put a link to on the show notes page for Johnny Tipler, so you listeners can get your hands on this. Again, if you love Lotus or you want to add to your library, this is a book that you have to have. Now, you've been on many very cool drives, as you referred to back then. I'm going to allow you to go on what I call the ultimate drive. I'm going to provide you with any car in the world. Money is no object here. You can be anywhere in the world, and you can be with anybody, living or deceased. So what would the ultimate drive look like for a guy like you, Johnny?
Come a site two. Would you mind if I so there's a drive that Laura, my wife, and I, we were thinking of doing, which was Peking to Paris.
Oh,
which
yes.
Which is a lengthy rally.
That little rally, yeah.
We bought a Volvo Amazon, which some guys down there, specialists, were converting into a truck, basically. Yeah. Seam welding it and everything. And then the Twin Towers got hit, and all those long-distance rallies were cancelled. So that's still something that I would like to do. Okay. But perhaps more, I'd like to do the Pan American Highway. I've raced in the La Carrera Panamericana, which is a different kettle of fish, but the Pan American Highway from the southern tip of Argentina,
Patagonia area,
all the way up through Chile and so on. You go through Central America, Mexico, obviously, all the way up to Alaska.
Yes.
Now there is such a route, and that would be quite an amazing thing to do.
So if I could provide you with any vehicle to take such an enormous journey in, what would you be in?
Okay, so if I can take you back to La Carrera Panamericana in Mexico.
Yeah.
So the sexiest car there is the Studebaker Champion Regal Starliner. Raymond Loewy designed Studebaker. So aesthetically, that would do it for me as the vehicle. A nice big V8.
That's quite an answer to that question, because I think most people on a journey like that would probably pick like a Porsche Cayenne or, something that was cushy and comfortable, but no, not you. You're in for the adventure. That's a very neat answer to that question. Very cool. Well, you've taken me on an awesome journey. I think I could talk to you forever. I'm sure there's more stories in that skull of yours that we can share in the future, maybe when that new Evora book is out. Before I let you go, though, could you share maybe some parting words of wisdom, advice for our listeners today?
I think don't be afraid to step off the edge once in a while.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like that's something you've lived your life that way.
Now and again, yeah. if taking off on a Dutch barge that I'm a huge Leviathan on the French canals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. And with what we've been through the last 2 years in life, I think it's readjusted maybe some people's compasses to not be afraid to step off the edge and to get out there and live life, enjoy things. And hopefully we will all get back to that very soon as sanctions and mandates start to lift away a little bit here. I certainly hope so. You can learn a lot more about Johnny, listeners, at his website, Johnny Tipler. Tipler, Tipler.co.uk. I'll put a link to that on Johnny's show notes page so you can check it out. And I want to do a shout out to Johnny's son, Jules. He's the one who is responsible for getting me together today. I met Jules a couple weeks ago. He was bringing a guest here to the show. We had a nice little chat. Wonderful, wonderful chap, if I will say. And he goes, you know what? You should have my dad on your show. He was right. I should. And also, I want to do a shout out to Ellie Stevenson at the Crowwood Press. They're the ones that published this wonderful book. So shout out to them. Make sure we put links to their website as well. Johnny, thank you for spending a really fun time with us today. This was great. Thank you to your wife, Laura, for getting us connected on the IT end of this. She's obviously got some IT talents there and skills. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Fantastic, Mark. Thanks very much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
This has been fun. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers for now.
I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.